Few things in sports are as fun as when your favorite team has a rookie making a legitimate impact. And first, there's the present value to it. The rookie might shore up a weak spot on a contending team, or that rookie might just take over an up-and-coming team. But more than anything, it's a new face. Because after all, most of our favorite television shows, they have to introduce new characters and storylines as they get renewed for multiple seasons. To keep things fresh. So, a rookie can provide a similar dynamic in sports. But more than anything, there is hope for the future. The idea that this guy is going to be part of my sports watching life for a decade. I am going to see him improve and maybe even grow up a little bit. So when you have an impact rookie, the prospect of longevity is exciting. And in Philadelphia sports right now, there are 4 rookies making different types of impacts, but all of them are doing some exciting things. Let's get into them. Heading into the past offseason, after the defense collapsed down the stretch last year, the Philadelphia Eagles had a clear need in the secondary. Even Darius Slay, the one cornerback that the Eagles knew that they were going to bring back, is 33 years old, and that's like 100 at that position. So, heading into the 2024 NFL Draft, Howie Roseman had to take a corner, right? Not so fast. Under Roseman, who is pretty darn good at his job, the Eagles have traditionally built through the trenches. And it has been a pretty good strategy. And the thought, heading into the draft, was that Lane Johnson, who should be a Hall of Famer, only has a few years left to tackle. So why not draft his replacement and maybe even let that replacement play right guard for a few years? Give that guy a few years at Stoutland U, like they did with Cam Jurgens before this guy hung him up. Not only that, the 2024 offensive tackle class was considered to be excellent, loaded. So no, that would not have been fun, but it also would have been understandable. It's what the Eagles do. They plan ahead and build through the trenches. But as it shook out, 5 offensive tackles went before the Eagles picked at number 22. And one of the downstream effects of that run on tackles is that 2 corners who were routinely mocked ahead of the Eagles pick, Alabama's Terrion Arnold and Toledo's Quinyon Mitchell, were there at number 22. Howie, who loves to trade up and down the board, could stick and pick and take the corner of his choosing. The Eagles chose Mitchell, a small school player who had turned heads at the Senior Bowl against some of the prospects he did not usually play from the high major schools. Mostly someone who played off coverage at Toledo, Mitchell showed at the Senior Bowl that he could play press man as well. And it's early, but it looks like the Eagles chose right. And that is not really a dig on Arnold. He has promise, although he does lead the league with 7 pass interference penalties. But Mitchell, well, he has 0. And he has 0 because nobody really throws at him. It's funny, when watching Eagles games, you kind of forget he is even playing at this point. You see stuff like this all the time. The one thing Quinyon does not have this season are interceptions. He dropped a few chances early in the season, but as the year has gone on, I said this already, nobody really throws at him anymore. And one other thing that Quinyon does, he talks. That much was apparent early in the season.
You easy as to get over.
I've been on you all day, Cup. How many catches you got? You got 1 catch, you got to do. That's it.
All right. You know who I am, right? You know who I am, right? No, I do not. No, I don't.
The Eagles got smoked in that game against Tampa right before their early bye week. But they had clearly found something in Mitchell, who took a starting corner job and ran with it right away. Still, their defense kind of stunk headed into the bye. They needed someone else. And as it turned out, they took that someone with the 40th pick in the draft. That's right. Howie doubled down on corner in 2024. In a deal with division rival Washington, Howie traded up 10 spots for Iowa cornerback Cooper DeJean. No sticking and picking there. DeJean was known for his versatility. Is he a corner? Is he a safety? And his sick high school hoops mixtape. The kid can certainly get up off the floor. He was also considered an excellent tackler, which is what they do at Iowa. They try to win games like this. They play great defense. They play terrible offense. They punt all the time. But DeJean got hurt in training camp, which put him behind the 8 ball. New defensive coordinator Vic Fangio is old school. Unlike Allen Iverson, he values practice. But by the bye week, after the first month, DeJean had caught up. He was inserted into the starting nickel spot, which in the modern NFL is basically a full-time position. And DeJean has been awesome. In particular, he has a knack for making huge plays against some of the league's best players. Here he is stoning Jamar Chase on 4th down. And here he is body slamming Derrick Henry. That might be the best Eagles hit since Sheldon on Reggie Bush. Plus, he has a cool celebration.
It was awesome, like just seeing the whole group do that on the sideline afterwards.
Iowa, Franny, Iowa. That's what they do in Iowa. They tackle in Iowa.
That's right, cuz. And it's not just that DeJean and Mitchell have been good. They have been. But the Eagles' defense has also made this massive turnaround. At the end of last season, the Eagles had one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Fast forward to now, since the bye week, and we're talking about 2.5 months here, not exactly a small sample, they have been the best defense in the league statistically. And there are other reasons why that has happened. Zach Bond is one of the great value signings of the offseason, and there is a reason that Uncle Vic gets shown in the booth 100 times per game. He has been incredible as the defensive coordinator. The booth shots are getting a little crazy, though. Can we give my man a better angle than the nostril shot? Just saying. But a big part of this defensive turnaround is that the Eagles have found a corner duo for both the present and the future. And then there are the Philadelphia Flyers. The orange and black are going on about 12 years or so of being pretty darn irrelevant, which is a change for this franchise, because for the 35 or so years before that, they were plenty relevant. Often flawed, didn't win a ton of titles, but they were relevant. And a big reason for that recent downturn, a lack of top-end talent, a true lack of stars. Which is why, when Danny Briere and Keith Jones took over in 2023, they immediately did something pretty interesting. Those are the two guys who played here when Ed Snyder was the win-at-all-costs owner. But dare I say, they got a little processy in pulling the Sam Hinkie move, prioritizing the future over the present. And they did that by selecting Russian forward Matvei Michkov with the 7th pick in the 2023 NHL draft. Now, Michkov was not supposed to drop the number 7. Connor Bedard was the clear top pick in the draft, but Michkov was ranked a bunch in the 3 or 4 range. Some people had him as high as number 2. But Michkov fell to number 7 for one reason. He was not going to play in the NHL right away. In fact, he had a 3-year deal with SKA St. Petersburg in the KHL, a contract that was going to be hard to get out of. So, the more talented prospect dropped a few slots because teams did not want to wait 3 years. The Flyers, who were craving a star-level talent and had a new front office in place that had the job security to be patient, took the plunge. And here was the really cool thing. They only had to wait 1 year. I will not get into that whole story, but Michkov wanted to play in the NHL. And he also wanted to play for the Flyers, which is cool and has not always been the case recently. Boo! Danny the Diplomat did his work behind the scenes, and SKA St. Petersburg let Michkov out of his contract. So, the Flyers got Michkov 2 years earlier than most people thought. But how has he fared once he got over here? I'm here to tell you quite well, in fact. We had an article on our site, allphly.com, recently, comparing Michkov to the other highly drafted forwards, a lot of whom became star players, and he grades out quite well in a lot of the metrics. Not quite in the Connor McDavid tier, and he could stand to figure out some of the defensive work, but Michkov is producing a ton of points, particularly on the power play. And that is impressive because the Flyers' power play was abysmal before he got here. Like, worse than the league. They honestly were more dangerous while shorthanded. And Michkov is a lot of fun, too. He tries the Michigan goal a bunch, which infuriates his old school coach. He signs water bottles after getting ejected, which perplexes his old school coach. And he scores a bunch of big goals, both at the end of games and against other NHL superstars, which his old school coach loves. The whole thing has been a lot of fun. And while the Flyers are not going to win a Stanley Cup this year, whatever they do, Michkov is providing Philly hockey fans with something they have not had in years: hope. He just turned 20 years old and is scoring a bunch of points at the highest level. Odds are he is going to get a lot better in future years, and the Flyers will then have someone to build around. Okay, so we have the two guys making noise on a Super Bowl contender, and we have the potential franchise-changing hockey player. In the Sixers' case, how about we settle for something a little less, a pleasant surprise in one of the most miserable seasons you can imagine? When the Sixers drafted Jared McCain with the number 16 pick in this year's draft, he was already pretty well known. But not just for being a good basketball player at Duke. No, he now has over 4 million followers on TikTok. And the general rule of thumb for NBA rookies is that they are not supposed to be good. Even the ones that are gonna be good are not usually good to start. And McCain, the number 16 pick in what was both projected to be and what has in fact turned out to be an underwhelming rookie class, was definitely not supposed to be good. Spoiler alert, he is pretty good. McCain had a stretch of 9 games where his stats looked like this. And this wasn't Michael Carter Williams process level empty stats. He was efficient and playing winning basketball. Now, McCain is a smaller guard, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He probably will never be a good defender. but he is super skilled and stronger than you think. And he has these relocation plays that look like Steph Curry. And before you scream at me, yes, he's not Steph Curry, nor is he going to be, but he is doing a thing that Steph Curry frequently does better than almost every NBA player besides Steph Curry already as a rookie. And McCain might have been the rookie of the year. During one of his big games, he even said that on camera. But unfortunately, McCain plays for the Sixers, which means bad stuff, by definition, has to happen to him. Nobody is immune. And just last week, McCain tore his meniscus kind of out of nowhere, too. Like, we didn't even know he was hurt when he did it. And look, that stinks. But still, this was a really nice start to the kid's career. And he has been a breath of fresh air in an otherwise awful season for the local basketball franchise. So look, I have no idea what the future holds for any of these guys, but I am excited to find out. And if you like the video, can you do me a favor and hit the thumbs up icon? And if you are a Philadelphia sports fan, or even if you're a fan of one of these teams, the Phillies too, Andrew Painter is going to join these guys as an impressive rookie soon. You should subscribe to PHLY Sports. We talk about all of these guys and these teams in greater detail than I just did, and we often do it 5 days a week. We have already built a great community that is only getting bigger. So come on, join us.
We all silly like the mayor.